can sing. But the cool news is God's got me singing a new song now, and I'm grateful for that. Very grateful. And I left mainstream music and actually took a job at a local church in Modesto, California. Apparently you've never been there. Now, I heard that the pastor of this church is from Modesto, California. Is that true? All right. And I think he worked at the same church I worked at after I worked there. That's what I heard. So, yeah, it was kind of interesting. It's a connection. So I took a job at this church, and man, people thought I was out of my mind. I got made fun of in magazines, and they're going, "You're doing what?" And it was an interesting transition time. I took this job at this church. I had long hair and an earring, which there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the church that I went to work at, we had to wear a suit and tie. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just when you combine the two of those things, every time that I would go into work, it looked like a bad 80s rock video. And so, I was just trying to do my thing. I really felt like I was following God's call in my life that was most important. And so I'm working at church, and they said, "Hey, do you want to be on the worship team?" And I said, "Yeah, sure. What is that?" I had like no church background at all, so I didn't know any of it. And they said, "It's the band that plays on the weekend." And I thought, well, sure, that sounds fun. And so I come in, and my guitar parts, kind of at first at church sounded like this. Is that music that makes you want to chew a little tiny piece of gum and smile at everybody on stage? I was getting really crazy with it, really letting my hair up. I might do something. And so between the second and third week I was on the worship team, this really did happen. I felt like God kind of spoke to me and said, "Hey, why are you holding back during worship?" And I was like, "Touche. That's good. And have you ever had good intentions and still done the wrong thing anyway? Anybody? All right, this was me. I just said, "Well, Lord, I don't want to offend anybody." We had a lot of older folks in our church at the time. Which there's nothing wrong with that. That was a close one. I love the older folks. It's just that back then, like face melting electric guitar was not as widely accepted in church. How you guys doing? Did everybody get enough pictures yet? Okay, let me. Alright, we all good? Go one more? See, where was I? I'm sorry. Okay, so why am I holding back in church? And I said, I didn't want to offend anybody, and we had a lot of older folks in our church, and again, I really do. I love the older folks, and I was just kind of freaked out, and I felt like God spoke to me real clear, and I felt like He said, "You play what I put in your heart to play." And I thought, okay. So I get back to church, third weekend, and my pastor has no idea this little exchange is taking place. And we get up, and he comes up on the platform, and he goes, "Hey, we've got Lincoln on the worship team for the third week. Why don't you just play something for the church this morning?" I don't remember exactly what I did, but I remembered what God had said to me. And I think what He had placed in my heart that morning was something like this. Embellishment for tonight. But it was something along those lines, and I look over when I'm done, and my pastor's down on one knee. Kind of like half laughing, half crying. But I figured, you know, I may as well go out with a bang, this being my last weekend. So I go sit down on the pew next to my wife, and I look over, and she has this look on her face like... I was like, what? Just trying to obey the Lord. So I've been sitting down maybe 10 seconds, and I get this tap on my shoulder, and I turn around, and it was this lady who's probably like mid-70s or so. Which, again, nothing wrong with that. I said, hi, good morning. She said, I want to tell you something, young man. I was like, thanks a lot. I said, what might that be? And she said, I just wanted to tell you that I sure am enjoying that guitar playing of yours.